Hey everyone, phototristan back with another video. And today I got to go listen to this $55,000 Sennheiser HE-1 headphone system. And this is it here. You can see when you turn it on, it activates and the knobs are recessed and they start slowly appearing out of the chassis. And then also the tubes start appearing out of the chassis, and then the headphones themselves also appear under a little lid, as you can see here. It's on a marble base, and it really is a piece of artwork. It's like audio sculpture is really what it is. So, you know, I mean, the main thing about this is it's $55,000. So a lot of people are probably not necessarily even buying it to necessarily just listen to, but also to display in their homes and just to say that they have it. It's almost like an art piece. So you have to kind of take that into consideration as well. I have to say it sounded really good. Definitely had an excellent sound to it. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to listen to it other than via digitally, via the USB. It was hooked up to a MacBook Pro. And it uses its internal DAC. It has a built-in internal DAC, and I believe it's an ESS-based DAC. Not 100% sure on that, but I believe that it is. And I thought that in my listening of this, that the DAC was the limiting sort of factor in the sound that I experienced with it. I would have actually liked, they had a turntable, you know, set up with it, and I would have actually liked to have heard that because that would be bypassing the DAC and I would be listening to analog. But to me, it seems like something that is this revealing and this sort of high resolution really does show some of the limitations of the DAC. And if I were to buy this system, if I had the money, which I don't, but even if I did have the money and I bought this system, I would probably want to hook up a different DAC to it, like the Core Dave or something like that. Because again, the built-in DAC to me seemed to be a little bit limiting. And the reason why I say that is because I did hear a very distinct sort of shrillness to some of the vocals, especially in the highs. It's almost hard to explain, but everything else in the sound spectrum sounded almost perfect, like very involving, nice wide sound stage, very present sounding, and very rich sounding, and it didn't seem to struggle at all, except for a slight upper mid harshness, and I think that's just because of the DAC. That's just my opinion anyway. And again, those of you who know me or know my listening preferences know that I prefer a little bit of a darker sound signature than what Sennheiser usually provides. So I do have to say that the HE-1 does have the sort of Sennheiser sound to them in terms of it being very, very revealing and very involving, you know, with very good bass and all that too. It's not really a dark sound signature, but it's also not a super bright sound signature at all. It's just a very realistic and natural sound signature. It's a hybrid system, so the tubes are on the preamp side of things, and then in each ear cup is a solid state amplifier that's designed specifically for the electrostatic drivers in the headphones. So it's sending line level signal, you know, to the headphones, and it's amplifying them right near your ears, which is probably a better, technically a better way of doing things than sending the power signal, you know, all the way down the headphone cable, you know, amplified to the headphones. Also on the back, it has both balanced and single-ended ins and outs, so you can use this as a preamp to go to like powered speakers or a home stereo system or something like that. In the store, it was set up with, again, USB input, and they also had, going from the turntable, you know, RCA inputs as well. I did not actually get a chance to hear the turntable that they had, unfortunately. They only give you about half an hour per person, so it's not a whole lot of time. It is sort of a statement piece. It does really look cool. It definitely sounds awesome. And I think probably with the right DAC and source, it will sound really excellent. I don't know if, even if I had the money, if I would actually spend the money on this, because you can get like 85% there with, you know, like something that costs maybe $4,000 or $5,000 as opposed to something that costs like $55,000. And by the way, the $55,000 is just where it starts. That's like the base price. These things are made to order, so you can actually customize them yourself, and you can actually add things like you can have a different color marble base, you can have different color knobs, you can even get it like gold plated, get things like gold plated and things like that. So it's very custom. And as you add on things like that, it becomes more expensive even. So $55,000 plus tax is the base price for basically like what you see right here, the base unit, and as it comes. I don't really know the output specs or the kinds of tubes that they use. I'm not even sure if Sennheiser necessarily publishes that stuff. The tubes do say Sennheiser on them, so they're custom built for Sennheiser. The headphones themselves were very comfortable. They fit around the ear quite nicely. They are a little bit heavy, but they're very well balanced on the head. But I did notice they do have a little bit of weight to them. Certainly not as heavy as something like the Odyssey headphones, but they do have a bit of weight to them. Just a very reference quality sound. I also listened to the same track, one right after the other on the HE1, and then I went downstairs and listened to the Sennheiser HD800S with their new HD820 amplifier. And I could definitely hear that it was more of a closed-in, sort of tony sound when compared to the HE1. I still have this sort of audible memory implanted in my brain from going from the track on the HE1 and going right down and listening to the same track on the HD800Ss with the HD820 amp, and certainly noticed that it did not sound as good. It still sounded really good, but certainly not as good as the HE1. So anyway, these are just sort of my miscellaneous ramblings on the Sennheiser HE1 system. Certainly glad that I had a chance to finally listen to it, and it really did sound quite good. But certainly I think there probably is a market for the Sennheiser HE1 for people who want like a piece of art sitting there in their living room, in their house and stuff like that, or just for people who are insanely wealthy and just have to have like the top of the line stuff, just to say that they have it or something like that. And also for those wondering, in terms of the USB cable they were using a card is clear USB cable, which I think is a excellent USB cable. I was not able to hear high-res audio, however, because on the laptop that they had at the time, it was just iTunes, and iTunes limits the output to like 48 kilohertz. So even if you have like a high-res file, it actually will down-res to 48. In retrospect, I probably should have tried to hook up my iPhone, because I do have some high-res files via a different player on my iPhone, and plug it directly into like via USB into the HE1 system, but I just didn't have time to do all that. So anyway, it was really fun to finally get a chance to listen to the Sennheiser HE1 in person and also to see it. It's definitely impressive. But yeah, certainly the HE1 is an insanely good top of the line headphone system. If you're anywhere near the San Francisco Bay Area, you can actually get on a list to listen to this thing at the San Francisco store. The San Francisco store is right off Union Square, right near the Apple store on Post Street. And if you just call the store, you can get on the list. I think they have about a month-long waiting list or so to listen to it, and you get, I believe, half an hour with it. The people there at the Sennheiser store are really very friendly, and it was a fun experience overall. Thanks for watching, and any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them, and I will see you in my next video.